Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video where we'll be diving into some fascinating recent research on the evolution and relationships of a group of mammals you may not have heard of before, the Afrotheria. I'm excited to take you on a journey through time and across continents as we explore the latest scientific findings about these remarkable animals. The Afrotheria are a diverse group of mammals found primarily in Africa, hence their name. They include some animals you're probably familiar with, like elephants and manatees, as well as some more obscure creatures like golden moles, tenrecs, and aardvarks. What makes this group so interesting to scientists is that despite their wildly different appearances and lifestyles, genetic evidence shows they all share a common ancestor that lived over 80 million years ago in Africa. Today we'll be looking at several key areas of research that are helping to unravel the evolutionary history of the Afrotheria and their relationships to other mammal groups. We'll explore how new fossil discoveries are filling in gaps in the Afrotherian family tree, examine what genetic and anatomical evidence tells us about how these animals are related, and look at how studying living Afrotherian species can give us insights into their ancient ancestors. This field of research is important not just for understanding the history of these specific animals, but also for what it can tell us about mammalian evolution more broadly, the effects of continental drift and changing climates on animal diversification, and even the origins of some uniquely African ecosystems. By the end of this video, you'll have a much better understanding of this fascinating group of mammals and the cutting-edge science being used to study them. I want to emphasize that while I'll be summarizing findings from a number of recent scientific studies, I won't be calling out specific papers or researchers. Instead, I'll be focusing on giving you a big picture view of where the science currently stands. And of course, this is a rapidly evolving field, so new discoveries are constantly refining our understanding. So whether you're a biology student, an animal enthusiast, or just someone curious about the history of life on Earth, I think you'll find a lot to interest you here. Let's dive in and see what we can learn about the amazing Afrotherian mammals. Part 1. Defining the Afrotheria. To start our exploration, let's take a closer look at what exactly the Afrotheria are and how scientists first realized they formed a distinct group. This will set the stage for understanding the more recent research we'll discuss later. The story of the Afrotheria is a great example of how advances in genetic research can completely change our understanding of evolutionary relationships. For most of the 20th century, mammals were classified based on their physical characteristics and fossil history. Under this system, the animals we now call Afrotheria were scattered across different groups. Elephants, manatees and hyraxes were considered ungulates, related to horses and cattle. Aardvarks were grouped with anteaters and armadillos. Tenrecs and golden moles were thought to be related to hedgehogs and shrews. But starting in the late 1990s, genetic studies began to tell a very different story. As researchers compared the DNA of different mammal species, they found strong evidence that all these seemingly unrelated African animals actually shared a common ancestor not shared by other mammals. This was a huge surprise and it took some time for the scientific community to accept. After all, what could elephants and golden moles possibly have in common? The key breakthrough was the realization that this group's common ancestor lived in Africa at a time when that continent was isolated from the rest of the world. About 100 million years ago, Africa separated from South America as the Atlantic Ocean formed. It remained an island continent until about 30 million years ago when it collided with Eurasia. During that long period of isolation, the early ancestors of the Afrotheria diversified to fill a wide range of ecological niches. So what animals are included in Afrotheria? The group is divided into two main branches. The first is the Paungulata, which includes the elephants, manatees and dugongs, and the hyraxes. These tend to be larger animals with features we often associate with hoofed mammals. The second branch is the Afroinsectophilia, which despite its name includes some animals that aren't insectivores. This group contains the aardvarks, elephant shrews, also called senkies, golden moles, and tenrecs. One of the challenges in studying Afrotheria is that while genetic evidence strongly supports the group, there are very few physical characteristics that all members share. This is because they've evolved to fill such different ecological roles, from the massive, plant-eating elephants to the tiny, burrowing golden moles. However, researchers have identified a few traits that seem to be common to the group, such as some aspects of their reproductive anatomy and development. The discovery of Afrotheria as a distinct group has had major implications for how we understand mammal evolution. It's a reminder that convergent evolution, where unrelated organisms evolve similar traits due to similar environmental pressures, can make animals appear more closely related than they really are. It also highlights the important role that geological events like continental drift can play in shaping the evolution of life on Earth. In the following sections, we'll delve deeper into recent research on the relationships within Afrotheria, the fossil record of the group, and what we're learning about their early evolution. But keeping this background in mind will help put all that new information into context. Part 2. Entangling the Afrotherian family tree. Now that we understand what the Afrotheria are and how they were first identified, let's look at some of the recent research that's helping to clarify the relationships between different Afrotherian groups. This is an area where there's still a lot of debate and uncertainty, but new studies are gradually helping to resolve the picture. One of the biggest challenges in determining how different Afrotherian groups are related is that they diverged from each other very rapidly early in their evolution. This means there are relatively few genetic changes that distinguish the early branching events, making them hard to resolve with certainty. It's like trying to untangle the branches of a bush rather than a tree. However, by using larger genetic datasets and more sophisticated analysis methods, researchers are making progress. Recent studies have consistently supported some groupings within Afrotheria. For example, there's strong evidence that elephants and manatees are closely related, forming a group called Afrotheria. There's also good support for a group called Afroinsectivora, which includes tenrecs, golden moles, and elephant shrews. But other relationships remain contentious. For instance, there's debate about whether hyraxes are more closely related to elephants and manatees, or if they branched off earlier. The position of aardvarks is also uncertain. Some studies place them with Afroinsectivora, while others suggest they might be more closely related to the Paungulata. One interesting approach that's been used to try to resolve these relationships is to look at rare genomic changes, like the insertion of transposable elements into specific locations in the genome. These events are less likely to occur multiple times independently than simple DNA mutations, so they can provide strong evidence of shared ancestry. Studies using this method have provided additional support for some groupings, but haven't fully resolved the Afrotherian tree. Another area of active research is using anatomical traits to understand Afrotherian relationships. This is challenging because, as we discussed earlier, Afrotheria are so morphologically diverse. However, careful analysis of both living and fossil species is revealing some shared derived traits that support the groupings suggested by genetic data. For example, recent studies have identified features of the ankle bones that seem to be unique to Afrotheria. There are also some interesting similarities in the structure of the placenta across different Afrotherian groups. These morphological studies are particularly important because they allow researchers to place fossil species in the Afrotherian tree, which can't be done with genetic data alone. Speaking of fossils, the discovery of new Afrotherian fossils is also helping to clarify evolutionary relationships. Fossils can reveal intermediate forms that show how the distinct body plans of modern Afrotherian groups evolved. They can also help to time when different groups diverged from each other. For instance, recent discoveries of early fossil elephants and manatees have strengthened the evidence for Afrotheria by showing intermediate stages in the evolution of their unique features. Fossil elephant shrews have helped to solidify the position of this group within Afroinsectivora. Despite all this progress, there are still many open questions about Afrotherian relationships. Interestingly, different types of data, genetics, anatomy, fossils, sometimes suggest slightly different relationships. Reconciling these differences and understanding what they tell us about Afrotherian evolution is an active area of research. What's clear is that unraveling the Afrotherian family tree requires combining multiple lines of evidence and using increasingly sophisticated analytical methods. As new data become available and methods improve, we can expect our understanding of Afrotherian relationships to continue to be refined. This research isn't just academic. Understanding how different Afrotherian groups are related has important implications for conservation. It helps us understand the evolutionary uniqueness of different species and can inform decisions about conservation priorities. It also provides context for comparative studies that can tell us about the evolution of specific traits, like large body size or adaptations for digging. In the next section, we'll zoom in on some specific Afrotherian groups and look at what recent research is revealing about their evolutionary history. Part 3. Spotlight on Pangolata, elephants, manatees, and hyraxes. Let's now turn our attention to one of the major subdivisions within Afrotheria, the Pangolata. This group includes some of the most charismatic and well-known Afrotherian species, the elephants, manatees and dugongs, collectively known as sirenians, and the hyraxes. Recent research is providing new insights into how these animals are related and how they evolved their distinctive features. First, let's consider the elephants. Modern elephants are the only surviving members of an order called Proboscidea, but this group was once much more diverse. Recent fossil discoveries are helping to fill in the evolutionary history of proboscideans, revealing a surprising diversity of forms. One of the most interesting areas of research has been on the origin of the elephant's most distinctive feature, its trunk. New fossil finds are allowing researchers to trace the gradual evolution of the trunk from a more typical mammalian nose. These fossils show a series of intermediate forms, with the nose and upper lip gradually elongating and becoming more flexible over millions of years. Another fascinating line of research involves the evolution of elephant intelligence. Elephants are known for their cognitive abilities, including self-awareness, tool use, and complex social behaviors. By comparing the brains of modern elephants with fossil elephant skulls, researchers are starting to piece together how elephant intelligence evolved. It appears that brain size increased dramatically during proboscidean evolution, with some extinct species having even larger brains relative to body size than modern elephants. Moving on to the sirenians, manatees and dugongs, recent research is revealing new details about their adaptation to an aquatic lifestyle. Like whales, sirenians evolved from land-dwelling ancestors, and fossils are helping to document this transition. Studies of sirenian fossils are showing how their limbs transformed into flippers, how their tails evolved into flukes, and how their ears adapted for underwater hearing. One particularly interesting area of research involves the sirenians' unique method of bone ballast. Unlike other aquatic mammals, which use blubber to help control their buoyancy, sirenians have very dense bones that act as a ballast. Recent studies of fossil sirenians are showing how this feature evolved over time, likely as an adaptation to their shallow water lifestyle and plant-based diet. The third group of paungulates, the hyraxes, might seem out of place alongside elephants and manatees. These small, rabbit-sized animals don't look much like their larger cousins. However, genetic and fossil evidence confirms their close relationship. Recent research on hyraxes has focused on understanding their unique evolutionary history. One intriguing finding is that hyraxes appear to have undergone a dramatic reduction in size during their evolution. Fossil evidence suggests that ancient hyraxes were much larger, with some species reaching the size of modern horses. Understanding how and why this size reduction occurred is an active area of research. Another interesting aspect of hyrax evolution is their relationship to other paungulates. While genetic studies consistently place hyraxes within Pangolata, their exact position is still debated. Some studies suggest they're more closely related to elephants, while others place them closer to sirenians. Resolving this question is important for understanding the early evolution of Pangolata as a whole. Recent research is also shedding light on how the unique features shared by paungulates evolved. For instance, paungulates have an unusual molars that grow throughout their lives. Studies of tooth development in modern paungulates and their fossil relatives are revealing how this trait evolved and what advantages it might provide. The biogeography of Pangolata is another active area of research. While most modern paungulates are restricted to Africa and nearby regions, fossils show they once had a much wider distribution. Researchers are using new fossil finds and advanced analytical methods to reconstruct how these animals spread around the world and what factors influenced their current distribution. All of this research on Pangolata is not only fascinating in its own right, but also provides valuable context for understanding Afrotherian evolution as a whole. By studying how these larger, more familiar animals evolved, we can gain insights into the early stages of Afrotherian diversification. In our next section, we'll turn our attention to the other major branch of Afrotheria, the Afroinsectophilia, and explore what recent research is revealing about these smaller, less well-known mammals. Part 4. Exploring Afroinsectophilia, aardvarks, sengis, and more. Now let's shift our focus to the other main branch of Afrotheria, the Afroinsectophilia. This group includes some of the most unusual and least known Afrotherian mammals, the aardvarks, elephant shrews, also called sengis, golden moles, and tenrecs. Recent research is revealing fascinating details about the evolution and biology of these animals. Let's start with the aardvarks. These unusual animals, with their pig-like bodies and long snouts, are the only living members of the order Tubulidentata. Recent studies are providing new insights into aardvark evolution and their unique adaptations. One area of research focuses on the aardvark's specialized anatomy for eating ants and termites. New comparative studies are revealing how their long, sticky tongue and powerful digging claws evolved. Interestingly, these adaptations evolved independently from those of other ant-eating mammals like anteaters, providing a fascinating example of convergent evolution. Another intriguing line of research involves the aardvark's teeth. Unlike most mammals, aardvarks have teeth made of thin tubes of dentine rather than enamel. Recent developmental studies are starting to unravel how this unusual tooth structure develops and what advantages it might provide. Moving on to the elephant shrews or sengis, these small, long-nosed mammals are proving to be full of surprises. Despite their common name, they're not closely related to true shrews. Recent genetic studies have confirmed their placement within Afrotheria and are helping to resolve the relationships between different sengi species. One of the most exciting areas of sengi research involves their remarkable locomotor abilities. Many species are capable of very fast, bipedal running. Think of them as tiny, fuzzy antelopes. Recent biomechanical studies are revealing how their unique leg anatomy allows for this speed and agility. This research not only tells us about sengi evolution but also provides insights into the evolution of fast running in mammals more generally. Another fascinating aspect of sengi biology is their monogamous mating system, which is unusual among mammals. Recent field studies are providing new details about sengi behavior and social structure, helping us understand how and why this mating system evolved. The golden moles are another group of Afroinsectophilians that are revealing evolutionary surprises. These small, burrowing animals superficially resemble true moles, but recent research confirms they evolved their subterranean lifestyle independently. One particularly interesting line of research involves the golden mole's sense of hearing. Unlike many burrowing mammals, which have poor hearing, golden moles have incredibly sensitive ears that can detect vibrations in the soil. Recent studies are revealing the unique adaptations that allow for this ability, including modifications to their middle ear bones. The final group of Afroinsectophilians we'll discuss are the tenrecs. Found primarily on Madagascar, tenrecs show an incredible diversity of forms, filling ecological niches occupied by shrews, hedgehogs, and even otters on other continents. Recent research on tenrecs is providing new insights into how animals adapt to fill vacant ecological niches, a process called adaptive radiation. Genetic studies are helping to reconstruct how different tenrec lineages evolved as they colonized different habitats on Madagascar. One particularly intriguing area of tenrec research involves their unusual reproductive biology. Some tenrec species have litter sizes of up to 32 offspring, the largest of any mammal. Recent physiological studies are starting to reveal how tenrecs manage this extreme reproductive output and what it might tell us about the evolution of mammalian reproduction more generally. Across all these Afroinsectophilian groups, researchers are also making exciting discoveries about their sensory abilities. Many of these animals are nocturnal and have evolved fascinating adaptations for navigating and finding food in low-light conditions. For instance, recent studies on golden moles have revealed that they have eyes that are completely covered by fur and skin, yet still retain some light sensitivity. This vestigial vision may help them maintain circadian rhythms despite their subterranean lifestyle. In tenrecs, researchers have been studying their unique sensory hairs, which are much more densely packed than in other mammals. These hairs appear to give tenrecs an extraordinary sense of touch, allowing them to navigate complex environments and detect prey. Some species even use these hairs to detect subtle air movements, almost like a biological sonar system. Another area of active research across Afroinsectophilia is their thermoregulation. Many of these animals have low metabolic rates and can enter torpor, a state of decreased physiological activity. This is particularly interesting in the context of early mammal evolution, as it may represent a retained ancestral trait. Recent studies using advanced imaging techniques are revealing how these animals regulate their body temperature at a cellular level, providing new insights into the evolution of mammalian thermoregulation. The biogeography of Afroinsectophilia is also a hot topic of research. While most members of this group are found in Africa and Madagascar today, fossil evidence suggests they once had a wider distribution. Researchers are using new analytical methods to reconstruct the historical movements of these animals, helping to understand how geological events like the separation of Madagascar from Africa influenced their evolution. One particularly exciting area of research involves the use of ancient DNA techniques to study extinct Afroinsectophilians. While this is challenging due to the tropical environments these animals lived in, which aren't conducive to DNA preservation, some recent studies have managed to recover genetic material from subfossil tenrecs and elephant shrews. This is allowing researchers to understand how these populations changed over time and how they relate to modern species. Lastly, there's growing interest in the conservation of Afroinsectophilia. Many of these animals are highly specialized and have restricted distributions, making them vulnerable to habitat loss and climate change. Researchers are using ecological niche modeling and genetic studies to understand how these animals might respond to future environmental changes and to inform conservation strategies. All of this research on Afroinsectophilia is revealing the incredible diversity and adaptability of these animals. Despite their seemingly primitive features, they've evolved a wide array of specialized traits that allow them to thrive in diverse environments. Understanding their evolution not only tells us about this specific group but also provides insights into broader questions about mammalian evolution and adaptation. Part 5. Fossil discoveries and the early evolution of Afrotheria. Now that we've explored the major groups within Afrotheria, let's take a step back in time and look at what recent fossil discoveries are telling us about the early evolution of this group. This is an area where new finds are constantly reshaping our understanding. One of the most exciting aspects of recent Afrotherian paleontology has been the discovery of fossils that help to fill the gaps between modern groups. These transitional fossils are crucial for understanding how the diverse forms we see today evolved from a common ancestor. For instance, recent discoveries in North Africa have unearthed fossils of early proboscideans that are helping to illuminate the evolution of elephants. These fossils show a gradual increase in size, changes in tooth structure, and the early stages of trunk evolution. Some of these early forms were semi-aquatic, suggesting that the common ancestor of elephants and sirenians may have been adapted for life in swamps or shallow waters. Similarly, new sirenian fossils are providing insights into their transition to an aquatic lifestyle. Fossils discovered in Jamaica include species with strong limbs that could probably still move on land, representing an intermediate stage between terrestrial and fully aquatic forms. These fossils are also revealing how sirenians' unique skeleton structure, with dense bones for ballast, evolved over time. In the realm of smaller Afrotherians, fossil discoveries are no less exciting. Recent finds in northern Africa have uncovered early relatives of elephant shrews that are helping to clarify this group's relationship to other Afrotherians. These fossils show combinations of features that hint at the common ancestry of elephant shrews, tenrecs, and golden moles. One particularly fascinating area of research involves the search for the earliest members of Afrotheria. This is challenging because the earliest Afrotherians would have lived over 80 million years ago, and fossils from this period are rare, especially in Africa. However, some tantalizing finds have been made. For example, some researchers have suggested that certain fossils from the late Cretaceous of Africa, previously thought to be related to southern hemisphere mammals called Gondwanitherians, might actually represent early Afrotherians. If confirmed, this would push back the origin of Afrotheria significantly and provide valuable information about their early evolution. Another intriguing line of research involves the possibility that some fossil mammals from other continents might be related to Afrotheria. Some studies have suggested that certain enigmatic fossils from Europe and North America might represent early offshoots of the Afrotherian lineage. This idea remains controversial, but if true, it would have major implications for our understanding of early mammal dispersal and the biogeography of Afrotheria. Researchers are also using new techniques to glean more information from previously discovered fossils. Advanced imaging methods, like micro-CT scanning, are allowing scientists to study the internal structures of fossils in unprecedented detail. This has been particularly valuable for understanding the evolution of Afrotherian brains and sensory systems. For instance, recent studies of the brain cases of fossil proboscideans have revealed how elephant brains changed over time, growing larger and more complex. Similar studies on fossil golden moles and tenrecs are providing insights into the evolution of their unique sensory adaptations. Another exciting development is the use of trace fossils, preserved tracks, burrows, and other signs of animal activity, to understand extinct Afrotherian behavior. Recent discoveries of fossil burrows in South Africa, for example, have been attributed to ancient golden mole relatives, providing insights into how their burrowing behavior evolved. All of these fossil discoveries are helping to refine our understanding of when and where different Afrotherian groups originated. Current evidence suggests that the initial diversification of Afrotheria occurred in Africa during the late Cretaceous period, with different lineages adapting to distinct ecological niches. This reconstruction of early Afrotherian evolution is also shedding light on the environments of ancient Africa. The types of adaptations seen in early Afrotherians give us clues about the habitats that existed at that time. For instance, the semi-aquatic adaptations seen in early proboscideans and sirenians suggest the presence of extensive wetland environments in northern Africa during the early Cenozoic. It's important to note that our understanding of early Afrotherian evolution is still a work in progress. New fossil discoveries have the potential to dramatically reshape our views, and there are still many gaps in the fossil record to be filled. However, the pace of discovery in recent years has been rapid, and we can expect our knowledge of Afrotherian origins to continue to grow in the coming years. This fossil research is not just about understanding the past, it also has implications for the present and future. By understanding how Afrotherians adapted to past climate changes, for instance, we can better predict how modern species might respond to current global warming. Similarly, understanding the historical distribution of Afrotherians can inform conservation efforts by identifying areas that might serve as climate refugia in the future. In our final section, we'll step back and look at some of the broader implications of recent Afrotherian research, including what it tells us about mammalian evolution more generally and its relevance to contemporary issues in biology and conservation. Part 6. Broader Implications and Future Directions. As we wrap up our exploration of recent Afrotherian research, let's consider some of the broader implications of these findings and look at where this field might be headed in the future. One of the most significant implications of Afrotherian research is what it tells us about mammalian evolution more broadly. The discovery of Afrotheria as a clade has fundamentally changed our understanding of how mammals diversified after the extinction of the dinosaurs. It's a powerful reminder that convergent evolution can create misleading similarities between unrelated groups, and that the evolutionary history of life on Earth is often more complex than it initially appears. The Afrotherian story also highlights the crucial role that biogeography plays in evolution. The isolation of Africa during much of the Cenozoic era was clearly a driving force in Afrotherian evolution, allowing these animals to diversify into a wide range of ecological niches. This underscores the importance of considering geological and climatic history when studying evolution. Another important implication of Afrotherian research is its impact on conservation biology. Many Afrotherian species are endangered, and understanding their evolutionary history can help inform conservation strategies. For instance, knowing that golden moles and tenrecs represent very ancient lineages emphasizes the importance of conserving these animals to preserve mammalian evolutionary diversity. Afrotherian research is also contributing to our understanding of the evolution of various biological traits. For example, studies on the diverse reproductive strategies of Afrotherians are providing insights into the evolution of mammalian pregnancy and lactation. Research on aardvarks and elephant shrews is illuminating the evolution of specialized diets and their associated anatomical adaptations. Looking to the future, there are several exciting directions that Afrotherian research might take. One area likely to see continued progress is the use of genomic data to resolve evolutionary relationships. As sequencing technologies improve and become cheaper, we can expect to see whole genome sequences for more Afrotherian species, potentially resolving some of the remaining questions about their interrelationships. Another promising area is the field of evolutionary developmental biology, or evo-devo. By studying how Afrotherian embryos develop, researchers may gain insights into how their unique anatomical features evolved. This could be particularly interesting for traits like elephant trunks or the unusual teeth of aardvarks. The field of paleoproteinomics, the study of ancient proteins preserved in fossils, is also likely to make important contributions to Afrotherian research in the coming years. This technique allows researchers to recover molecular data from fossils that are too old for DNA preservation, potentially pushing back our understanding of Afrotherian evolution even further. Climate change research is another area where Afrotherian studies may become increasingly important. As African and other tropical ecosystems face significant changes due to global warming, understanding how Afrotherians adapted to past climate shifts could provide crucial insights for conservation efforts. There's also growing interest in the potential biomedical applications of Afrotherian research. For instance, studies of how naked mole rats, a type of rodent, but one that shares some striking similarities with Afrotherians, resist cancer and tolerate low oxygen environments are already yielding insights that may be relevant to human health. Similar research on the unique biology of various Afrotherian species could lead to unexpected medical applications. Finally, we can expect to see continued integration of different types of data in Afrotherian research. Combining evidence from genetics, fossils, anatomy, and behavior is already yielding insights that wouldn't be possible from any one of these sources alone. As analytical methods improve, this integrative approach is likely to become even more powerful. In conclusion, the study of Afrotheria is a dynamic and exciting field that touches on many fundamental questions in biology. From the origins of mammalian diversity to the mechanisms of adaptation, from the influence of geological history on evolution to the challenging